Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. And for all of those of you who have been asking me, yes, the blackout at the Super Bowl was prophetic. And yes, it was from the hand of Almighty God. God was telling us that we are almost at the midpoint of the 7 years of tribulation. And he is telling us that he will decide when the midpoint of that tribulation occurs. Not some Illuminati puppets like the ones who staged the halftime of the Super Bowl. The real halftime of the Super Bowl occurred when God decided it. And at the point which God divided the game, there were two separate games, really. The first game was won by Baltimore, 28-6, and the second game was won by the 49ers, 25-6. Of course, when you add the two scores together, Baltimore won the Super Bowl. But the point is, the second half of the game, which corresponds to the second half of the tribulation, was much different than the first half of the game. In other words, the first half of the tribulation. The second half of the tribulation, Jesus refers to as the Great Tribulation. And he says it will be the worst time in the entire history of mankind. Also, this blackout was a symbol for the timing of the rapture. Remember, Jesus said he will come like a thief in the night. He said in the night, not at the end of the night, not at the beginning of the night. He also said he will come like a bridegroom for his 5 wise virgins. And he comes at midnight. And that is why this power blackout in the Super Bowl occurred in the middle of the game. Now I want to take a look at a Hyundai television commercial which aired during the Super Bowl, and which I also believe is a prophecy from Almighty God. And first I want to thank the Groxt, who already did an analysis of this advertisement, and I believe he got it partly right. The advertisement shows a young couple driving along the highway in a Hyundai, of course, and they successfully pass 9 different hazards. And I believe these hazards symbolize 9 great woes which we are going to experience in the second half of the Great Tribulation. First, we see a somewhat overweight motorcycle rider. And what is significant is his underwear, which is showing. In this close-up view, you can see he is wearing leopard print underwear. And of course, the leopard symbolizes Barack Obama. I want to congratulate the Groxt for correctly identifying the man on the motorcycle as representative of Barack Obama because of his leopard skin underwear. Now, I have been preaching on YouTube for almost 5 years that Barack Obama is the leopard, as found in Daniel chapter 7, verse number 6. And it is high time that the rest of you so-called prophets on YouTube got up to speed. Now, this overweight motorcycle driver with the leopard print underwear blows a kiss to this attractive woman in the passenger side of the Hyundai vehicle. This attractive woman is the most important person in this entire Hyundai advertisement. Please notice the striped shirt she is wearing, because she wears 5 different ensembles in this advertisement. Also, especially, please note this beaded necklace. This attractive woman represents Mary. The beaded necklace, which she is wearing, symbolizes the rosary. The 5 clothing ensembles which she wears throughout this advertisement symbolize 5 decades in a rosary. Now, in this advertisement, it is the Hyundai vehicle, of course, which successfully maneuvers around the 9 hazardous obstacles. But of course, symbolically speaking, it is Mary and her rosary which will successfully lead us around the hazardous obstacles of the Great Tribulation. The next obstacle for the Hyundai is a horse trailer. And the Groxt correctly associated them with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They also symbolize the horses of the Russian invading army as described in Daniel chapter 11, verse number 40. Now, I'm not sure if this license plate at the bottom has any significance. It reads BS 1070. Following the horse trailer comes what is probably the most intriguing vehicle of all of the obstacles which the Hyundai must pass, and that is a pickup which is loaded ridiculously high with household items. Now, this pickup truck symbolizes Mystery Babylon. There are 28 items, more or less, piled on the back of this tall pickup, and that is a reference to the 28 items associated with the Whore of Babylon in Revelation 18, verses 12 and 13. These are piled high in the shape of a very tall tree. And this is a reference to the giant tree in Daniel chapter number 4, which also is a symbol of end times Babylon. In fact, at the very top of this pile of household goods, which is shaped like a tree, there is a small tree. And of course, this tree is about to go under this overpass. Towards the end of this ad, this tall load of household items is demolished as the pickup truck tries to go under the low overpass. This symbolizes the destruction of Mystery Babylon, which of course is primarily the United States. The tree at the top is knocked off. This is a reference to Daniel chapter number 4. In that chapter, the great tree also symbolizes Babylon, and a judgment is pronounced on that tree by the two prophets, Enoch and Elijah. They are the watcher and the Holy One who come down from heaven. In other words, this advertisement is one more warning from Almighty God about the destruction of the United States. And I believe it comes through the prophet Enoch, very much as Enoch warned us through the music video, Gangnam Style. Next, the Hyundai must maneuver around a car of newlyweds. I'm not sure what this license plate reads, maybe SEM 501. Behind the driver's side window on this newlyweds car, we see a Masonic hand symbol for sex. The round shape symbolizes the female parts. The three fingers standing upright symbolize the male part. And I won't tell you what this middle finger stands for, because if I did, Anderson Cooper would put me on his ridiculous again. But please know, this is the finger which is always wearing a wedding ring. The other image on this window is this barefoot, and the Grok seems to think this symbolizes the Pleiades. But don't forget, all of these vehicles which the Hyundai passes represent obstacles, and that is woes of the end times. And I believe this foot sticking up in the air is a symbol for childbirth. Now, I'm not saying that childbirth is going on in the car, because the woman who represents Mary is rather shocked at what she sees, and notice that she is wearing a different outfit, in this case, a blue collar. And childbirth is a much better indication for an end times woe, because as Jesus said, it would be like a woman in labor. In other words, the second half of the tribulation, as symbolized by the second half of the Super Bowl, will be much different from the first. The labor pangs are going to be much more noticeable. In part 2 of this series, I will show how these 9 obstacles in this advertisement do indeed symbolize woes of the end times. And I will show where they are found in Bible prophecy and how they relate to President Barack Obama. I will also show you the 5 woes which Alicia Keys sings in her song, Obama on Fire. Take a listen to that if you get a chance, because she does sing, woe, 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 woe. Those are 5 woes of the end times. And as always, I offer a free copy of my book, Revelation Unraveled. If any of you are still interested, you can write to the address you see on your screen, or just send me a private message to my YouTube channel.